pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, district announcements. We have a couple announcements. Congratulations to incoming Troy High School freshman Nicholas Boofy for winning the U.S. Census Team Video Contest with the Rensselaer County Complete Count Committee and the Art Center of the Capital Region. So, excellent news. Another shout out, congratulations to Troy Middle School student Zacharias Williams, whose poem Why the Coronavirus was featured in the Trolley, the online journal of the New York State Writers Institute. So that's awesome.
Very good.
And Mr. Carmelo, if you have access to that, could you forward that to the board, if you're able to? So that's great news. Great to hear that kind of stuff. Public input. There was no public input, so we'll move right along to the public hearing code of conduct with Mr. Carmelo.
Okay, thank you very much. So some years the code of conduct hearing is comprehensive and in-depth. This year it's we kept everything the same. Dr. Watson has a code of conduct committee. So every couple of years they really do a comprehensive overhaul. Remember 2 years ago that we've added some of the restorative language in there, restorative justice language in there. We've added some things about being proactive in relationship building and listed some of those things. So this year we're required to still have the hearing, but the code of conduct has not changed other than a few names of the DASA coordinators because there are new counselors that have been hired, and so those are our DASA coordinators at the elementary level. So unless anybody has some questions on the code of conduct, there's really no hearing tonight because there's no change.
Everyone else have? Okay. Move right along to the reopening discussion with Mr. Carmelo.
Okay. Thank you. It's up on the screen there. Thank you, Teresa. So I appreciate the time tonight. It's been a busy couple of weeks, as you can imagine. We got the state ed guidance about 2.5 weeks ago, and we had 2 weeks to put our plan together and submit it, which we did last Friday. There's really no great answers to what to do, but we think we came up with a plan that is the best at getting as many people here as we can, and also making sure everybody's got a high-quality education. So we'll go through it. Tom asked me to do a presentation tonight, which I think is a great idea. We have 2 employee forums tomorrow. One's at 10:30 in the morning, one's at 2:30 in the afternoon, so we can get people that have different schedules. And then we have the panel discussion for parents tomorrow night at 6. We probably already have 200 some odd questions coming in from parents. A lot of them are similar, so we'll go through those and make categories out of them, but that should be a really informative panel discussion tomorrow. Some of the questions will be answered tonight here, but we'll go through those tomorrow for parents that aren't listening tonight. So let's go to it. Certainly stop me and ask any questions that you might have. The Tri-City School District's mission statement is we'll provide a strong educational and social foundation to graduate all students college and career ready. Last year during the budget process, we talk about this every time, and last year's budget development made it difficult, but we still are committed to doing that, obviously. This new reality is making it very difficult, but that still is our mission statement. It's still what we're planning on doing. We're planning on having a great year. It's just going to be a different year, and it's going to take a lot of collaboration and cooperation, and we're going to I'm always super excited to start the year. I'm not sure I qualify as super excited to start this year, but we are committed to making sure it's still a great year for everyone. So in general, the reopening plan, the health and safety of our students, our staff, and their families remains our top priority. So we developed the plan with that in mind. Certainly learning, and student learning, student achievement, and well-rounded students are also our top priority, but we've got to make sure that health and safety is right at the forefront. We had a goal before we started to develop the plan, and we've been talking about it for months. Again, I told you the stated guidance came out 2.5 weeks ago, but we've been discussing this since March, when it looked like this might go on longer than we had hoped. So our goal has always been to get as many students as possible to safely return to school in person. I think the research is clear, at least the research I'm reading. I think we all understand that kids need to be in school. They certainly need the academic learning, but they also need the socialization. They need the interaction with peers and adults. The mental health and emotional distress that kids are going through by not being here, not just Troy and any school district, but especially districts like ours. We need to get kids back in school in person, but we need to do it in a safe way, and so we have to make sure we're doing it kind of step by step, so that we can make sure we do it the correct way. The plan is developed with recommendations and guidance from the CDC, by the New York State Department of Health, and by the New York State Education Department. And those guidances were very comprehensive. 145 pages was the State Ed one. A little less for the other two, but really pretty comprehensive. So I mean, the only knock on it, I guess, is they didn't give us a lot of time to take that and turn it into our own plan. But it wasn't for a lack of substance in those plans. I mean, they really put a lot of thought into their plan, so we thank them for that. More importantly, probably, developed with input from stakeholders at every level and area of our school district. Collaborations with our reopening committee. We have a great reopening committee, 20-some, almost 30 members of, again, every level, every different job, from elementary up through high school. And it just was a really great, thank you to Ebony for being part of that. But it was really a great committee. It was a committee that collaborated really well, shared ideas. It was a non-threatening environment, so people could share ideas and then be told, oh, that's not going to work, but how about this? Or, I mean, again, even if it was my idea, I mean, people were saying, no, that's not going to work, but have you thought about this? So it really, really was a great sharing. That reopening committee was really great. And we made subcommittees off of that reopening committee that really did a ton of work outside the official meetings of that full committee. So I really thank them a lot. And I thank them in a bunch of emails, but doing it publicly is certainly something I should be doing. So, thank you to them, and thank you to Emily for being part of that. And then utilizing responses from our staff and community surveys. We put those surveys out 3 or 4 weeks ago. It was before the guidance, but we're just trying to get an idea at that time, if things stayed the same as right now, and I think that was early June, maybe late June. And we gave 3 choices, really, and the 3 choices were come back in person, stay remote only, or a combination of those 2. And we also allowed open-ended comments and questions to be asked in those surveys. So we had 1,500 responses from the community. We had 400, we did one for staff, and we did one for the community. So the staff one was about 400 responses. We only had 700 some odd staff members, I think. So that was really good, I thought. And the community had 1,500 responses, and we know what our voting numbers are sometimes. So I thought that was really, really great, and it really showed that how invested the parents and the community members are in this, what's going on right now. The percentages of the community, and I read all 1,500. And a lot of them, again, said the same kind of things, but the comments, was a full range. It was a full range to enough's enough, I want my kid back in school without wearing a mask, to I am no way sending my kid back to school because I'm afraid that, they're going to die. So, I mean, it was really, and then 1,500, so everywhere in between. But I did read them all. I just wanted to, get an idea. But the salient information I got from it was the pie chart. So there were about 48%, give or take, that were in the I want to come back in person, which I thought was pretty high, actually. About half the people wanted to come back full-time in person. There was about a little under 17%, I think it was 16.7 off the top of my head, that said remote only. And then the rest, 30-some%, were in between with the hybrid. So again, that was a couple of months ago. The state of the nation has gotten worse in a lot of places. The media, the information that's out there and the results that are happening, it's not making people confident that things are getting better, I don't think. And so we've put out it's not a survey now it's the actual form that we've put out this week. And that form in 24 hours had 700 responses. And I just checked before I got here, we're up to like almost 1,000, like 960 or 70. So people, again, and everybody's going to have to respond to this one. Again, this one isn't a survey. This is one where parents are selecting one or the other. And so right now, and it's different in different schools, but the district number has been hovering around 36–37% that are choosing remote only. So, our thought that because the information around the country is not getting better, and when it's really time to decide, people have opted that out. Now, we'll see. We still have, 4,000 students, so we still have 3,000 or more that we have to get, but it's been pretty steady in that 36–37% remote only. That will be, I was going to say better, I don't know if it's better, easier for the district to manage the kids that are here. As far as social distancing goes on the bus and in the classrooms and in the hallways and all of that stuff. So if those numbers do play out, and so we're only talking about 60-some% of our students are here. And again, it's different for each school. So it's too early to talk about the actual results other than, right now we're in that 36–37% range. But if a school ends up having 50% remote only, then we might be able to bring that school all their kids in. So the plan, and I'll get to in a minute about this plan, it's certainly fluid and changing, and those results as that change. They have till August 14th to decide, so I think after the panel discussion and all of that, our website, Erin Clary's doing a really good job keeping people up to date, so we have FAQs on the website. We have the actual plan on the website. My introduction to that plan, that first page, which kind of just gives some general things like that we're talking about now, but is there. This presentation will be there, so people will have information, and then they have, for the people that have an answer already, they'll have a couple of weeks to do that. And then we'll actually really, using those numbers, we'll be able to really see what we'll be able to do as far as the kids that are coming. We've really tried hard to be responsive to the concerns and ideas that we were shared. And I'll flow right into the parent choice. If you read in the newspapers, there's a lot of districts out there right now that are saying they're not doing parent choices. As I'm on meetings with other superintendents, they're saying things like, I'm not going to open that can of worms. I don't understand their thinking of that. I mean, why wouldn't you let the parents decide? So we have done that. The feedback we're getting and the questions for the panel discussion tomorrow, before they ask their questions, a ton of them are saying, thank you so much for all your work. Thank you so much for giving us choice. Thank you so much for all the options, that kind of thing. So I think we've been responsive. We've listened. Again, we've read all the surveys. We've listened to the concerns, and we're continuing to read all those emails as they come in, and we'll keep trying to. I mean, not everybody's going to be happy, and we're not going to be able to say yes to every request that we get, certainly. But we're trying hard to err on working with everybody to make sure we do the best we can at that. The plan right now is based on the information that we currently have. So again, the information in the world, the information in our surveys that people are responding to, the information from state ed, the information from the governor. The governor said 2 weeks ago that this is the week he's going to come out and really let us know. So it's already Wednesday. My guess is it'll be sometime Friday. He has given the parameters with the percentages of positives, and according to those numbers, it seems like he's going to allow us to open. But we don't know the details of, is he going to allow us, I assume he's going to allow us to have some virtual options, because in his press conferences he keeps talking about parents need to be comfortable sending their kid back. He also says teachers need to be comfortable coming back. So my guess is he's going to allow some form of the options that we have planned, but until we actually see those, we might be changing this plan Friday night and over the weekend if he comes out and says some things that are inconsistent with what we have put together. And it'll change as things might change in the fall. I think we have to be ready for this being a fluid process, and that if there's another, they talk about the second wave a lot, if there's a second wave and another huge outbreak, the governor might say November 1st, we're closed for 2 weeks, or specific buildings or specific districts might get an outbreak. And we'll get to that as we go along a little bit, but there may be decisions that we have to make to close a school or close the district. We won't do those decisions on our own. We will work with the Department of Health and certainly the state before we made a decision. But we have to be ready to say, this is the plan today, this is the plan that we have to open school today, but everybody's got to be ready for it to be a fluid process and change. And then probably that second bullet should have been third because I'm going to it last, but some of the details and logistics we're still working out. We're still developing. We don't have all the answers yet. Again, we only had 2 weeks, and so we got everything down and submitted that we had to, but there's still time, but there are still things that we have to figure out, and a lot of it will depend on how many kids are in person, right? Off the top of my head, I'm thinking of PE class and music class and lunch, and so those kinds of things that we don't have all the answers to right now, but certainly will as our information becomes more concrete in a couple of weeks.
Is there any guidance yet on phys ed, John?
The guidance on phys ed and music are actually the same, which is you have to be 12 feet apart for both of those activities. So being actually in the gymnasium, having gym class with a class of 25 is pretty much not allowed. But we have nice weather, and we try to. Mr. Reinish has made it clear with his teachers, even pre-COVID, that kids need to be outside in the fall and the spring. So they try to stay outside right up until that snow hits. So we can be creative and flexible with all of that stuff by taking the kids outside and spreading them out. You're not going to be able to play basketball or football or tag or things like that, but people still play tag. I'm doubting myself in tag. Do kids even know what tag is? Yeah, sorry.
Can you explain, I know it's a lot, I know it can change, I'm sure it will change, but, so if the kids are remote only, how do they handle the gym and the music and any other extra?
Yeah, I'll get to that, if you don't mind, Steph. We'll get to all three
That's
options and talk about that. I'm not sure we have the exact answers yet, but yes, we'll get to all of that. So let's go on to the safety first. So before we get to the three options and how they'll all work, and certainly we'll answer all of your questions that you have. Our plan has provisions for obviously different cleaning and disinfection. So not that the cleaning and disinfection that we've been doing up till now has not been great, but it's a different world, and there's a different attention to detail that's going to be required. There's going to be different frequencies for cleaning high frequency areas, high touch points, and all of that. I asked Bob to be here tonight because people have specific questions, but we are working on a plan, and the state requires you to have a plan where each room is actually recorded, what has been done in here, what's been cleaned, what touch points, yes, so that for contact tracing or for after the fact, if we find out there's a positive or find out anything that's going on, we'll have a record of which areas were cleaned when. So Mr. Garland has worked on actually he's had it also pre-COVID that we've been trying to do, so it's a good time to implement that. So he shared that. We met yesterday with Adam Hoteling, and we're going to work on that. We have those fogging machines, you've probably heard of those, where you really just spray a disinfectant, and in the room it kills the germs as it's filling up the room. We're still talking to the bus company to see if we may use those on the buses as well.
I don't know if this is an appropriate time to ask you, but aren't we going to need more staffing for this?
It's a good question.
And the second part, and will the state help us with that after they took $2.9 million from us?
Yeah, so all of the things in our plan, I shouldn't say all, the plan is filled with action items that are going to require money.
Yeah, money.
And the budget situation we're in, and let's take that quick aside, because the governor just last week reiterated that 20% language. And again, I hope he's doing that for political reasons, so that the federal government comes through with some money. The next stimulus package is supposed to be coming out soon, and at least the rumors are that there'll be some school district money. I don't know if it's going to be enough. So, yeah, there are a lot of things in our plan that are going to require money. The cleaning and disinfection. So, are we going to need more staff? The way we're talking about it right now is maybe add some building subs. The lunch aides that we hire to help with the cafeteria, maybe having them stay on before or after in a sub role. And Adam's looking into, remember, we pay those out of the actual cafeteria fund. Now, all the funds are like a different level now with the shutdown. But if they're before and after helping with some of the cleaning, I mean, just going around, and we didn't get to it yet, but most of the elementary schools are going to be eating lunch and breakfast in their classrooms. So just going around and emptying garbage cans is going to be a full-time job for somebody. So the answer is yes. We're going to try to do it in the most efficient, least expensive way.
Okay, now adding on to that question then, with having our answers by August 14th, we're going to have to put out advertisement to hire people. We're going to need to interview. We're going to need background checks. We have, he's like, I'm not doing this politically, but he's really leaving all of us in all school districts really hanging out to dry right now.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Now, he may come out, you said 2 weeks, but he may come out tomorrow or Friday, and we'll see. But I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, okay. Well,
yesterday, if you watched his press conference yesterday, he talked about, and he has since clarified, but at the time, I was getting emails and text messages. Did you hear what the governor just said? It seemed like he was saying that we were going to be responsible for testing.
Right.
Testing students and staff, and turning around those tests in 24 hours. Like, wait a minute, we're not a hospital, we're not a health department.
That's what I
So today, he clarified it as, when he said testing, he meant screening, all the stuff we're doing, and I'll get to that in a moment. And he said helping the Department of Health with the contact tracing after the fact. That's what he meant by testing. We're not responsible for testing. In fact, the SED guidance, or the CDC guidance, I'm not sure which one it was in, but it was clear as day that districts are not going to be involved in actual testing. That was SED's guidance, yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a miscommunication of people that were mishearing it, yes.
Yesterday in Rensselaer County's daily reports at the screen, he said that he's helping our school districts by supplying masks at his cost, the Rensselaer County's cost. So just,
we got a few from him, yeah. He's been really good. We have weekly meetings. I just had a meeting today. It was 11:30. It got moved back an hour, but that's, I guess, irrelevant. But we have weekly meetings with the Rensselaer County Department of Health, Mary Fran, and Stephen Gotland.
okay.
So, and he has, we have a box of extra masks. He's also, he's willing, I mean, they've been really great as far as accessible and communicating with us, things we need to do. We're going to realize, I said that to them today, I said when school starts, you know, Mary Fran's full-time job is really going to be communicating with schools and figuring out what we have to do. There's no real set rule, and I can get to that because that's the last one to bullet on here, and I'm sure it's on people's minds. When a student or staff has a confirmed positive case, I guess misunderstanding out there is automatically home for 14 days, and everybody that has been in contact with you home for 14 days. So the person themselves, probably yes, home for 14 days, but depending on the social distancing that went on, that's why we have to really keep track of everything we're doing, depending on the contact and how long that contact was with people. It doesn't necessarily mean that every single person that kid or adult had contact with would also have to quarantine. And so the guidance is clear. You work with the Department of Health, they do the contact tracing and you help them, and then they give you the guidance on here are the people that need to quarantine. So it's I guess the good thing is it's flexible and not rigid, but I think that also causes some concern that there's not some set rule that as soon as you're positive, everybody that you were with is also gone for 2 weeks. So that's going to cause some concern, I think. But that's the rule right now, and we will we'll work very closely with the Department of Health on that. But yes, we did get masks from them, and thank them very much for their help. Daily health screening students and staff. So right now we're doing a little pilot of it, which has been good. So anybody that's working in the summer, so staff members are going to do self-report. So there are a list of, I think it's 6 questions. Is that right, Teresa? Yeah. 6 questions. You know, do you have a temperature? Do you have, you know, there's a few symptoms. Have you been in contact with anybody that's positive? You have to answer no to all of those questions. So you either do that before you leave home. I think every business is actually doing something like this, but before you leave home, you answer no on a Google form, or the way I'm doing it is when you get to school, as you badge in, at the front desk there's a reader, and you badge into the reader, and that's your way of answering the questions no. If you do have a fever, you don't come. If you answer yes to any of those questions, you don't come to work that day. So the staff will continue to do it that way. They will self-report and fill it out. We're figuring out, I mean, now in the summer, there's not everybody here, obviously, so we're working with everybody trying to figure out the best way to do that. If we want to just have everybody badge in, so as you're badging in at the door, you could also be answering the questions and kill it in one swoop, so we're working on that. But staff will do a self-report one way or the other. The students, the actual guidance from SED, and some districts are going to try, is to have them also self-report with their parents. The problem with that is the ones that don't do it or can't do it or forgot to do it. So rather than try to you know, figure out a method to figure out who didn't fill it out with 4,000 students, we're going to do the students as they enter. So
John, is
yes.
that, you're going to take their temperatures?
Temperatures.
So is the staff going to get that also, or do they do that at home?
The staff will be self-reporting, doing it at home. They're not going to get it. Staff will self-report. The students, though, so the principals and I have talked, not just I was at the reopening committee too, but we've had some great conversations. Each school, and it's good for the congestion and social distancing anyway, but each school, we're going to buy them 4 or 5 of the infrared thermometers. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
And have 4 or 5 different entrances, either by grade level or maybe walkers and different buses. I'll let the schools decide how they want to do it. But so then we will have staff at each door. It's quick. I mean, if you've done it, you know, again, if you're going in any building, so it's quick. So each kid, as they're coming in, will just get a read. If they have a temperature, they go to what's called the isolation room, which again is right in SED guidance, and they have to go home. They can't be there with the temperature. But so rather than, again, rely on, I mean, parents have enough to worry about right now, relying on self-reporting, we're going to have the students do it as they enter. Visitors, it's probably on here, I think maybe it's on slide, but visitors, we had a meeting today with 3 or 4 visitors that came in. they have to go through our regular management system, which is the Raptor, which they put their license and their ID in, but they also then will get that screening, answer those questions on the spot, have to have a mask, all of that. So,
What about parents walking in the buildings?
Same.
Are you going to allow that for the kids? I mean,
Parents, I'll get to the visitor's slide, but parents will only be allowed in emergency situations. It's not.
so they're not going to be able
It's
to
not
walk
going
into
to be
class.
just coming in.
But the visitors should be limited too.
Everything will be limited to, it's a emergency, I can't remember the wording, we'll get to the slide, but it's for the safety and well-being of the students or something. Social distancing in schools and on the buses. So the buses, the guidance is pretty clear. It wasn't when it first came out, but it was clarified in an FAQ from SED. It really comes down to one student on each seat. So in some of our elementary schools with the littler kids, we put 3 on the seat sometimes, crowd them in. So it's a problem. 1 on each seat is necessary, and they will have a mask on. But that's going to mean some changes in our, on the face it means we need 3 runs probably, right? Because we used to put 3 on a seat. So that's more money, obviously, going back to Ann's question before. So we are trying to figure out a way now, in addition to parents choosing remote only, in person, they also are being asked, can you transport your student, right? Can you walk them to school? Can you give them a ride? Is there other transportation? And some people are more comfortable with that anyway. Maybe they can't ride them, but grandpa's riding them or neighbor's riding them or whatever. So the more we get there will be helpful, and that's in that same form, so we're trying to get through all those results. But right now, there are a few things we're working on. And I think this is a slide later on too, but I guess I just get to it as we're going. We're working with CDTA for a possibility for our high school students, or some of them. The good thing there would be they would get the weekly or monthly pass, which would be usable on weekends and nights if they're going to their job or going other places. That would be a good thing for them. The drawback is they don't do Durham runs, right? They do CDTA runs. So it would mean the high school kids got to walk out to Spring, they got to walk out to Hoot, they got to walk out to one of the main roads. But again, we're talking about 9th through 12th graders, so that might be a worthwhile balance to know that you're getting that pass where you can use that CDTA in other places. Nothing's confirmed. I've had probably 5 conversations with Carmen Seal, who's the CEO for CDTA. We've been talking anyway, trying to figure out if we can get a partnership together. Not sure with the short turnaround time what we can do, but before we agree to anything, certainly I'll share with the board, and we'll see. But he's trying to see if he can manipulate some of his runs to make it a little more user-friendly for kids, at least during the 7:30 to 8:30 time slot and the 3 to 4 time slot where kids are coming and going to school.
What about,
May I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Just so that I can understand this a little bit more, is it kind of a struggle, and I'm not saying it's good or bad, but is part of the struggle that we have contracts that indicate the length of the school day and the start times and all that, and so you can't really be as creative as you'd like to? Because you're within a certain, certain constraints that you really have to fit it into?
Yeah, I would say that the quick answer to that is yes, Stephanie, but I would say that the unions have been really good, at least so far, in cooperating, and the parameters around that are not that restrictive, and so I was just going to kind of get to that after the CDTA conversation. So the other thing that it's probably going to require, again, if we can only put that number of kids on buses, is to stagger some of the start times for the schools. And so I think that's what you're referring to, Steph. I don't mean to put words in your mouth. So, and we do have that flexibility. Now, it'll have to be an MOA probably, because technically, if we're going to change the times at any building, we're supposed to tell the employees by April of the year before, but certainly we had no idea last April what September was going to look like. So I've already talked to them, and they're willing to put an MOA together and work with us on it. So, you know, we don't have any decisions at this point. Again, we have to wait till those forms are all filled out, and we see how many kids are actually going to be in school and how many kids are actually going to be on the public transportation. But if it's too many to do the way we've done it, let's say 3 of the elementaries use all of the buses to get their kids, so 2 buses would be going the same route maybe, so that we can get every kid to those 3 schools. And then 2 of the elementaries would then be on an 8:30 time slot, so that those buses could drop those kids off and then go around to the other neighborhoods. So it may require some staggering of elementary schools. And again, going back to your question, Steph, we do have that flexibility in the contract. I think it's an hour either way, as long as, I think 4 o'clock's the latest, 7:30 is the earliest, 4 o'clock's the latest. So we couldn't start any earlier, but I think we could move those times to a little bit later if we have to. If CDTA doesn't work out and it's too quick, again, we'll keep talking. We've already agreed to kind of keep talking and try to figure something out. I think in the long term, Carm is really interested in, you know, manipulating some of his runs to make it very user-friendly for our kids. I'm just not sure he can get it done in 3 weeks. But if CDTA doesn't work out, the high school might have to move to the 3rd run, right? So we'd have a run of the 3 elementary schools, then we'd have the middle school and the other 2 elementary schools, and then all the buses would have to go pick up the high school kids. So they'd probably be looking at 9:20, 9:30, something like that. Again, as long as they're done by 4, then we can do that. That's not great news for anybody, especially if we end up having sports, which is another thing we'll get to later on, but even for after-school jobs and those kinds of things. So we are trying to be creative and flexible, and the unions right now are, at least so far, being willing to work with us. There will be some parameters that we won't be able to break, but I think those are doable. They're not great solutions necessarily, but we really will have no choice, you know, to do that.
Well, on the Durham buses, you're saying 1 kid, you know, to that big seat.
1 per seat, yeah.
What about 2 kids go to the same school? Their brother and sister, 2 brothers, whatever, same school, can they sit?
Yes, yes, he's actually right, big guy. It's a good question, Tom. Not just in the same school, but yeah, if they're brothers or sisters, any same household, 2 people live in the same household can sit next to each other.
That may help.
Yep, that'd be right.
You just brought up the word union. Are we going to have teachers that are 100% virtual?
Great question. Working with the TTA on that, so they have supplied us with a list. Not positive off the top of my head, I would say it's in the 20s, mid-20s range of teachers right now who have expressed concern. So they have an underlying health condition, or they're caring for someone with an underlying health condition. And so we've been in contact with the attorneys. Actually, Aaron's working on that with us mostly, to see what we're legally required to do, but also what we are willing to do. And so we always want to try to work with them first. The good thing about the 30-some% so far of students and families that are opting out is we may be able to have designated teachers be remote teachers with those kids.
That's what I was thinking.
If we had 100% of families that wanted to come, which we wouldn't, but let's just, for argument's sake, if we have 100%, then you really can't teach remotely because all the kids are here. But if it turns out that there is a good enough portion and enough number of kids that are going to be remote, and you're a 3rd grade teacher, and we have 20 3rd graders that have opted for remote, we can be creative and hook those people up. So that will depend on the numbers, but we're willing to work on it. You know, some people have just said, as employees, I'm not comfortable coming back. That really is not going to cut it. So we'll have to, you know, we do have, I'm getting to face masks right now, so I'll go to that because it's kind of a nice segue. We are purchasing masks for every employee and every student. They're the gator kind. I should have worn one so you know, but you know, you kind of wear it on your neck like almost like a scarf or a turtleneck, and then you just pull it up. And so everybody's going to get one. The staff will get a different color, which was a suggestion from one of the reopening committee members, so that kids would know who the workers are, because some of the kids are big too, right, especially at the secondary level. So staff will get a different color, but everybody will have almost like the face masks that I gave out. It'll have the T on it, and it'll be kind of cool. So everybody get one of those. We'll also have the disposable kind, like Mrs. Coles is wearing, for kids that forgot them, or if they're, it's in the wash, or for some reason doesn't have it for that day, or it gets dirty during the day or something.
What if they go to get on the bus and they don't have it?
We'll have disposables ready for them.
On the buses, okay.
And we also were given 1,000, I don't know if we got them yet, but we were promised 1,000 face shields from Scott's Miracle Grow, which was a great thing. He called us and said, how many you need? Mr. Hotel, he said 1,000, and they said done. And Adam immediately said, gosh, I said 5,000.
That's really funny, because the one time a teacher did call me and say, all teachers should have a shield on, because it's good for a child to see
Exactly.
the face and recognize. A lot of teachers don't smile with their eyes, or so they will recognize satisfactory behavior and things like that.
So we won't have one for
Staples had them for $5. We already bought some for Kim.
Excellent. We won't have one for every staff member, but 1,000 will go a long way. Right now in our summer program, and Adam is calling them back to see if we can get some more.
Like 4,000 more?
Well, I don't know if we'll ask for that many. I told them to try for 500 too, I said. And then we'll try 500 increments. But in the summer program, now that's a smaller program, we're talking about 40 kids and there's 6 or 7 in the class, but the speech therapists, the OTPTs, and the special ed teachers have it for that reason. Kids need to see the adult's face. They need to be able to, especially when you're doing things like speech and those kinds of things. So we'll be giving it.
They are in.
Huh?
They're in. Face shields are in.
Oh, they came in?
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Don. That will also be an accommodation for some of the people that are on the TTA list. They're not asking even to go back to your question again. They're not asking to be fully remote. They're just asking for, can I wear a face shield? Can I have someone that has one of our teachers has a child with some health conditions. She said, can I have a full shield on my desk, which will kind of, like when you go into Dunkin' Donuts or wherever you go to the bank, wherever. And so, Bob and I are working on that stuff as well. So we'll be as accommodating as we can, and I think all of those are reasonable things to ask for. So that exchange has already been going on, and I think it's going well right now. So I guess that covers the other PPE. Some have asked for gowns. We will have some gowns. The nurses might wear the disposable gowns. We haven't really finalized any of those things, but we'll have all of that stuff available.
Will the nurse's office have those? Like the shields and?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, even, because that's where the sick kid is going to go.
Yeah, nurses' offices certainly have. And gloves, they'll have more than the regular staff. Reduced class, cohort sizes, limited movement between groups and buildings. So 2 ways we're doing that. One is at the elementary level, it's really from those parents who are choosing remote only. So again, depending on those numbers, our class sizes, and again, thank you to the board, we've kept our class sizes really pretty good. I think it's an average of 19. Now, there are some in the 22, 23 range, but there are also some in the 15, 16 range right already. So
it's some of those classrooms that are big, so it's the way they
organize them. So having a 19 average class size already, if we really have 30% opt out, we're going to be in a number for most classes that are going to be able to fit 15 or 16. Tom just said the way they've designed them, we're going to have to empty the rooms from most of the stuff that's not essential, which is really
Everything except tables.
everything except student desk, teacher desk, and probably a classroom library, which we've already talked about. Having some space in the hallway for that. So, I mean, there are great things in those rooms, but the rugs and the bookshelves and, there's so many different things. And again, they're all good and they're things that kids love and want to see when they go back to school, but all of that's going to have to, that's the unfortunate part. That's going to all have to come out, at least for now and in the short term until we see where this thing goes.
In the little grade, in the kindergarten and first grades, a lot of them have tables.
Yes.
Are they gonna continue with tables?
No.
They
Great
have
question.
to put them in
Yep, great question.
desks
We're
for
gonna-
kindergarten?
Yeah, the tables are just too big, and you can't put 2 kids at a table.
Yeah.
So our principals, again, the communication has been really, really good. So the principals have told us the rooms they have that have tables instead, and we're ordering desks. We won't have to order full desks for everybody because, again, if we're only having 15 and the room already has 25, we can grab some from other rooms. But
More
yeah,
money,
we're
more
gonna,
money, guys.
but saving money there because we're going to be able to grab desks that we already have for the most part. We are going to have to buy some for sure. And then at the high school and middle school level, which is not great. Again, our goal was always to get kids here as often as we could, as safely as we can. But it was just too hard to get 6 through 12 here. So as you know by now, but we'll get to it in the details. They're going to be on 2 days in person and then 2 days at home, virtual, 2 days in person, 2 days virtual, and I'll go through that schedule in a minute. But that way, 50% of the kids, give or take, it's not going to divide evenly, but 50% of your students are here and 50% are home, and that's how we'll social distance 6 through 12. I was talking to Ms. Heckman before, and the 6th grade was the one that we really struggled with. If you're a 10th grader and you're home by yourself, you probably can handle that and get on and do your virtual learning. For a 6th grader, that stuff. So we went back and forth. Do we want to bring the 6th graders in every day? But the class sizes there were really high, and I'm just not sure how we could have done it safely at this point anyway. I mean, there are certain groups will be the next groups that we prioritize the ones that we thought needed it right now, that we could safely do it. And then there are some other groups that will be the next in line. In my opinion, the 6th grade would be that next in line if we can do it safely. So, but we'll do the social distancing by at the 6 through 12 by having them not be here 50% of the time. It says limited movement between groups and buildings. So that's what we were talking about before. The lunch will be in the rooms. Most likely there's going to be some variations to these things, but most likely the art teacher is going to go into the classroom instead of the kids walking to art. We try to keep groups the same, so as groups are leaving their rooms, they'll stay together. If they're going outside, they'll stay in one group, not intermingle with other classes. The best we can, the best we can.
So the middle school, will they be having classes over in the high school?
No. The middle school and high school, well, I'll get to those. Their classes are reduced naturally by the 50%. So what happens if the 50% or at the elementary level, the ones that chose remote, doesn't mean every single class is below the 15 number, if that's the number that we need. Each room is a little big, some are bigger, some are smaller. So what are we going to do? Well, one of the things we can do is find one of the bigger rooms. If we have a class that has 18, and families didn't do remote, or the breakdown that we did for the 2 groups that are coming in at the middle school or high school class, I mean, it's not necessarily that every class gets that same 50% breakdown, right? It might, for some reason, if we did it alphabetically, for instance, you might have a class that has predominantly L through Z, and so they have a big class. So those big classes we still have to deal with. We'll find bigger rooms if they're available. We may use the gym for those kinds of things, the cafeteria, or with the MX800s that are in every classroom. We also, have the opportunity, if it's necessary, it won't be our first line of defense, is to peel off 5 or 6 kids and rotate them throughout the day, where they're sitting in a different room with a TA or a building sub, and use the MX to live stream them into that room, which will be, we do a lot of that exchange from school to school anyway with those MX, so it would be a little bit seamless to do that piece in the buildings. But again, I think most of our classes are going to be able to get under that number that we need.
And we're not going to be using the cafeteria anyway, right? In the elementary level?
Right, so it might be, that might be a space that we grab for the bigger classes. Training for all staff and students, so there'll be training before school starts, mandatory training for the staff actually on all this stuff. But even the students, the SCD guidance is clear, posters and actual directions, how often to wash your hands, how long to do it for, how to keep your mask on, all that kind of stuff. I don't have to go through it all right now, but we will be doing all of that, as they come in so that people can be safe.
Mr. Carmella?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you handle the bathrooms?
Bathrooms?
Yeah.
Good question. So the bathrooms, we talked a little bit about it today because one of the parents asked it for the panel discussion tomorrow. I'm not sure we have all the answers right now. At the elementaries, it's easier to have monitors actually outside the bathrooms or teacher aides, or they sometimes already get, depending on the building, get escorted to the bathroom. So that'll be no problem. It's the middle school and high school where that's probably where the training's going to come in, because we're probably going to have to say, if there's someone already in there, wait outside in the hallway, because we don't have enough personnel to be watching every bathroom at the secondary level. So that'll come from the kids themselves.
Kindergarten, third grade, they're in that bathroom playing all the time. There's like, teachers have to know when to send those children out, because no adult really wants to go in there.
Yeah.
You see some kid, he's got his pants on, he's down on the floor, and some other kids in there playing around. What do? You don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
But there has to be a way.
Yeah, I'll talk to the principals. I mean, they know better than me, but I think we could probably have every kid escorted somehow. But maybe that's outrageous. I'll have to ask them if that's outrageous.
Or have one of the hall monitors
Yeah.
there near the bathroom or something.
Or one of the extra
And make sure that
building subs or something.
they wash their hands, because a lot of them come right out that bathroom and washing it.
Well, that'll be the stuff. Those, the signage will certainly be there. We can't guarantee that they're doing it.
Wash it.
He's one of those foggers with the
Adults.
Yeah.
Yeah, adults too. That's the transportation side. I think I probably said all that already. So we can move on from that. Instructional
There's something I
program.
would like to say about that. Now, there's nothing that you would say. Now, when we were in school, we had CDTA, it lined up out in front of the school.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then during the morning, we had buses that came that brought us to school.
That
too.
came right to school?
Came right, and at the end of the day, it had like Hill Street, they had Hoosick Street, I was on Hoosick Street,
I was
they had
at
Hill
Hoosick
Street,
Street.
and what else?
They had all the main,
Yeah.
River Street, Hoosick Street,
Taylor
all
Apartments,
your main
yeah.
roads.
Yeah, I went to Albany schools. At the middle school, we had that. So you got on your neighborhood.
Yeah,
So,
what about using that type of thing?
yeah, so I think long-term, that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I think what Carm's telling me is he's got 3 weeks. I don't think he can put that together and change all those runs to fit that schedule right now. But we're working on it. We're working on it. We'll see if we can pull something off.
We used to have tokens.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to be?
Well, now they have like a monthly
swipers.
pass or something.
But is that going to be picked up by the district?
Yeah.
Okay.
It gets transportation aid on it.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be an added cost for sure. Instructional program. Oh, I thought I heard somebody out there. Instructional program. So, with all the safety protocols, social distance, we simply cannot bring all students back in person. So we prioritize full-time instruction for those groups that have been identified, not just here in Troy, but everywhere really, as needing the most support. So that became the elementary kids, pre-K to 5, the special ed self-contained kids, and the English language learners who we're prioritizing right now. So we have a daily in-person, that's those groups. We have a hybrid, which is the secondary that I've discussed a little bit, but we'll get into more detail in a minute, which you're in person for 2 days and then you're home for 2 days, and then the remote only, which is by choice from the family. So let's talk about the daily in person. Again, those are the groups, pre-K to 5, special ed self-contained, and ELL. Those are students. Certainly there are exceptions to this rule, but that were really affected the most, I think, by that shutdown in the spring, and that we really wanted to make a commitment to get them back every day. We've already kind of said we make a commitment for the in-person one. It's going to be pretty much their regular schedules, right? We're going to try to do our best to keep them throughout the day with the same students. We'll do our best to teach art and music in the same classroom. We'll do our best to limit the class sizes. And I've kind of already gone through all that. If the class sizes are bigger than that, we'll find either a bigger room or we'll be able to piece some kids out if necessary. And PE, we'll have a combination of when the weather doesn't fit, they'll probably go into the classrooms and just do kind of non-PE, PE stuff. But when we can videos or something, or reading articles or whatever. But when we can get outside and take advantage of the space at the school, we'll do that. Hybrid model. So this is the combination in-person and virtual. Again, it's grades 6 through 12. And so you'll be assigned groups, and we haven't done that yet. One of the repeated questions from our parents that we'll answer tomorrow at the panel, but I figured it's important to answer now because it's one that's repeated. If you have kids at the middle school and high school, multiple kids, we will certainly make sure they're on the same tutors, so that you can work out.
Okay.
So that you can work out your child care or how you want to do that. So the kids will be home together and they'll be in school together. It was a good question. We'll certainly make that work. But so kids will be assigned one way, some way to 50% here, two different groups, and 50% of them will be in person for 2 days, and 50% the other. The other thing that people asked a lot in this, to address tomorrow night in the panel, but again, I think it's important to do now because it must not have been clear enough in our stuff that we've put out so far, is what's the 5th day? And there's no 5th day. It rolls again, and I guess we could skip to the next slide, which is there's no 5th day. You're on 2, then you're virtual 2, then you're in school 2, then you're virtual 2, and it does overlap. So if you're Wednesday, Thursday, then you're home Friday, Monday, then you're school Tuesday, Wednesday, then you're home Thursday, Friday. You know what I mean? So there's no 5th day there. It's just 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off.
I can do 3, 2.
Well, how can we do that? Then
3, 2.
One group would only be 2 all the time? Or 3, 2 and then a different 3, 2 the
Some
next
parents
day?
let the kids.
Well, one of the things that was brought up in the reopening committee,
Like the AV, like
it was
like
originally,
I'm on the 18, so I go 3 days 1 week and then 2 days the next week.
that's what you do.
Yes, but this
You go 3 days 1 week and 2 the next.
yeah,
So that's
it's
AV.
AV.
The original schedule that I brought to the reopening committee, it wasn't just me deciding, but that cabinet and administrators and worked with TTA, but when that first reopening committee meeting had was in 1 day, out the next, in 1 day, out the next. And then the conversation evolved to, there's a lot of every other day classes at the middle school and high school. So if you're in 1 day and out the next, and let's say your PE is opposite your biology lab, you're never going to biology lab. So they said, can we do 2 in? And then they thought they thought that was better for relationship building and connecting with kids and that kind of thing anyway. So it's 2 in, then 2 out, then 2 in, 2 out, but there's no 5th day, and I apologize if that wasn't communicated greatly, but it just wraps around. The one thing we will do is, see the schedule in front of us here, the September, we will do that through Christmas break and have that on our website and hand it out to kids and families. So you can look at the schedule and know which group you're in and look at December 3rd, hopefully that's a Monday through Friday, but look at December 3rd and know, okay, I'm virtual that day, I need to make plans for, whatever. So you'll have that, you'll have it in advance. Yeah. It won't necessarily say in-person virtual because we'll have to break the people into, if it's going to be A or B or purple or gold, or we'll have to figure out the nomenclature, what we're calling it. But everybody will get a schedule where they'll know where they stand for the whole first semester. Let me just make sure. So alternates 2 consecutive days in person, 2 virtual. So the virtual instruction, so when you're home, the plan right now, we're still this is one of the things we're still making sure working out the logistics of, but the plan is and it's also the plan for the remote, although it's going to be different if you're full remote, but we want it to be much more comprehensive, much more involved than the spring was. I mean, I think people did an amazing job in the spring. We had really no notice. We had 1 day notice that we were going to be closed. We kept thinking it was going to be a week or two, and then it kept going another 2, and then all of a sudden it was the end of the year. So it was really kind of building the ship as we were going, and we got through it. And again, people did great work. But we need the instructional program to be much more comprehensive, to have a set schedule. And so the plan right now for the virtual is, if you're a 10th grader and you come on Wednesday and Thursday and you have, I just said biology, you have biology at 9:30, well, when you're home on Friday, you still have biology at 9:30. You're just doing it virtually, right? So that's going to be a little bit harder for the 6th graders, like we were talking about before, even just in general. But that's going to be required, needed to make sure we get the quality instructional program that we want. So then when you come back on the following Tuesday, if you're that person, you haven't, the teachers aren't teaching something for 2 days and then repeating that something for the next kids, because if you do that, you're only teaching half the stuff for the whole year, right? And so it's really, that can't be the option, that you're just teaching half the standards.
Joe, how do you do attendance? How are they going to do attendance on remote only?
Yeah, so the SED's been very clear about that. Attendance is required for us to take it. So you have to, and we'll have to get this messaging out to families and parents, because again, in the spring, things were a little bit looser like that. You could log on for an hour, then you could go off and just do the work. Yeah. You could log on, a couple of days a week sometimes, and still keep up with your work, because a lot of it was, kind of independent. And so this time, like the example I just gave, if you have biology at 9:30, you have to log on to be counted as present for biology in that period. And we're required, again, by SED to count those kids as absent or present, depending on if they're logged in.
These kids also have a way of logging on and not
Actually. So we won't have, the teachers won't be seeing the kids. Like when you log on, I mean, like when I'm at a Zoom meeting and there's 15 kids, if there's 15 people, I see everybody in the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So will the
It'll be
teachers be
similar to that.
looking?
Yeah, it'll be similar to like our board meetings. I mean,
Okay.
right now
So
we can't
that's-
see them
okay.
because my
Right.
my thing is up.
Right.
The teacher will be able to see.
Good. Okay.
Now, there's a lot of details we work out. Some rooms aren't equipped, and we're gonna have to use the Chromebooks.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a little harder to get the whole room if you're using the Chromebook. But we'll make it work. I talked to Ms. Shevers, the Director of Technology, again today.
Okay.
I'm asking her to do some hard stuff, but we'll figure out a way, to make that work.
Yeah, because this could be the new norm for a long time.
We got a lot of things we
Until
have
we
to
get a
purchase,
vaccine.
like you said. But anyway, that's the plan right now. There will be some fluctuations to that probably, but again, with the information we have in front of us right now, that's the plan. And again, I said before, every effort to limit those classes to 15, being 50% on, 50 off, that should be no problem. There are some classes, especially at the high school, that are in the low 30s, but not many. And so we'll do those other things that I said, peel some kids off.
When you say 15, are you saying 15 present or 15 total?
15 in person, which would allow for social distancing. The most we're figuring, we went around looking at rooms, and like Tom said before, there are some rooms bigger than others, but for the most part, on average.
I just was curious. You can figure out the logistics. I was just a question.
But on average, the rooms are, if we can put 15 desks, we can be socially distant. So that 15 that's on the 2 slides in a row is meaning in person, in the room, because we can spread the desks out far enough. Okay? So that's the hybrid model, and there again is the sample schedule. The remote only model, again, this is by parent choice. And this also will look different than the virtual instructions just in this past spring. All the same things, I don't have to repeat it again, I don't think. But we need more structure to it, more of a set schedule, more comprehensive programming. And so The thing that really, the discussions that we've had over the last 3 weeks or so have really evolved with remote only. In my original naive brain, I thought they could be with the virtual kids and log on too. And then as we started discussing it, and, you know, again, I think the great thing about this district is people are willing to share ideas and say, no, what about this? And you know, and I'm willing to listen to that. And so I was convinced pretty quickly that that's not a good move. That if we have remote only people, then let's make a great remote virtual program for them, going back to your question, with possibly remote instructors that are dedicated to them. So if you're a 3rd grade teacher at Carroll Hill, you have your in-person kids, you're not also going to have to worry about, you know, if there were 8 kids that were originally on your list that chose remote, those kids are actually not on your list anymore. They're going to be on a different list. They're going to have their own teacher with their own classmates that is still going to have daily instruction with that certified teacher and daily interactions with their peers, because kids need that. But it won't be, not that they have a teacher now anyway, because the school year didn't even start yet, but it won't be necessarily the 3rd grade teacher that they thought they were going to get.
Now, when they have remote only days, does the teacher come into to work and teach from her class?
Great question.
Say that again?
Like when it's a remote only day,
For what? For just remote only, for this program? For remote only?
Yeah.
remote only,
The
yeah,
question is, the remote only instructors,
right.
where are they going to be?
Right, well, on the on-off days.
It's a great question. It's
What
one
what
where,
off days would they have if they're remote only?
No, on
Talk about the
the
high school.
high school and middle school, they're
No,
gonna have
no.
on days and off days,
no,
right?
no, different.
That's different.
And so
Well, then there's 2 questions there.
okay, but the names, and the names are confusing, so we'll have to try to get used to it. It'll be on us to use the terms in the way we mean them. So if you're remote, it means you've chosen only remote, right? Remote means I'm never coming into school.
Right, okay.
Students.
Yeah, okay.
If you're at the secondary level and you're in person and not in person, that term we're using is virtual. I don't know if that's,
Okay,
you know,
right.
nationwide terms, but those are the Troy terms.
Okay.
The Troy terms are,
That's what I was.
if you're virtual, it means you're only gone for 2 days and you're coming back those other 2 days, right? And the teachers are always in for those, right? Because they're teaching,
Right.
they have 50% of their
Right,
kids
no,
in
I
everything.
totally misinterpreted.
But it's a great question that you're asking, because it's one we're struggling with, really. And struggling might not be the right word, but we're discussing it, because if we have the room, my preference is that they still come to school. They come to school, it'd be an empty classroom, but they'd have the MX, or they'd have the technologies
Right, that's
that we
what I was-
have, they'd
right.
have all their schoolwork, they'd have their room, or a room, right? But, again, going back to that list that we've gotten, employees that have health conditions, we'll have to figure out, working with the attorneys and the unions, which there may be some that actually are allowed to stay home. I think the majority of them will be in an empty classroom teaching the remote kids, but in our building.
See, I really think, because if this is.
Again,
gonna
that
be-
hasn't been decided.
But if this is
That's
gonna be
just
the new norm for a while, which it could be, okay? Because you don't know who's gonna come out with what law and whatnot. But if this is gonna be the new norm for a while, it'd be good to have a set program, so even if this happens 10 years from now again, we can jump right into.
Oh, yeah. And we're gonna have to be ready to, like I said earlier, we're gonna have to be ready to, at some point, November 4th, jump into all virtual too. And so the remotes would stay, they'll be all set because they're already doing it.
Right.
And we'd have to figure out the way to transition the ones that are coming every day to all virtual. And the secondary will be a little bit easier because they've already had 2 virtual days, just all their days would now be virtual.
So we would really, for the remote only, say, well, starting with K through 5, we would need a teacher for kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So there's 6 more teachers just for remote only.
No, because we
Right.
have the teachers right now. We wouldn't have to hire them, is that what you mean?
Right.
We have teachers right now, like we have a fifth grade teacher that's on the list, I think he's fifth, who has a health condition, who wants to be removed.
Okay.
So it'll
Yeah, but what happens to that, to that?
Well, it all
If
depends
that-
on.
Or he or she will not be in the building, so who's gonna be in the building in that person's
Right,
place?
so,
You know what I mean?
yep, which is why this is all in flux, because it all depends on how many
Yeah.
kids choose the remote.
Right.
Right.
Because,
There are so many possibilities, so let's just go on.
yeah, you're right.
We could be here all night.
You're right.
We have so many buildings, we have so many employees, we have so many
Yeah, you're right.
possibilities.
But really, this is,
Let's just, before you want to open.
but this is really the only time we have to ask the questions, is when we're here tonight, so.
I have a list of 20 questions I'm not going to spend the time tonight doing, I'll email them to.
Yeah, you always can email me questions, and these are all good questions. You know, the unfortunate thing is right now we don't have an answer because it depends on how many kids choose remote, and if you know, so that teacher I just said, if enough kids choose it, we won't have a classroom of kids waiting for that guy. Right? But it is going to require some additional building stuff and things to
Mr. Cannone,
Yes.
I can't get some understanding of this now. So if the parents choose virtual for the elementary, is that teacher going to be the same teacher that's going to teach the kids in person?
No.
No.
So they're going to have separate teachers, is that what you're saying? Okay.
He said it. So, but there will be, let me just get to the third point. Again, I think these are all good questions, so you keep asking if you want. There'll be a set schedule this time, right? So different than the spring. We're not going to expect elementary kids to log on at 7:30 and stay on until 2:15. But we are going to expect them to, and the program is getting developed right now. I just had a meeting with Dr. Watson in the cabinet earlier today. You know, during reading time, you know, the 90 minutes of that, they have to be on. You know, it's probably a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours in the afternoon, and then an hour, you know, because the teacher day still has to stay within the parameters that Stephanie was talking about, contractual parameters of, you know, like contact time. But a couple hours in the morning, a couple hours in the afternoon, and then probably an hour of, you know, we call it office hours or check-in time or one-on-one or whatever it is, you know, follow up with kids. So there will be a set schedule for those remote learners. Again, we're committed in making sure we're going to have a quality educational program for whichever option you are in. And then the key is, it's really going to be hard for us if people choose remote and then say, actually, I'd like to come back tomorrow, you know, or I'd like to come back next week. So we're asking for a commitment through Christmas break, which is not really the full first semester, but it'll at least give us time, and you know, we'll figure out when we get there. But probably in my head right now is by December 1st, you tell us, now I'd like to come back on January 3rd, or whatever that Monday is, we come back from Christmas break. That'll give us time to now figure out, and who knows what the virus is going to even be like at that point. Hopefully, you know, we can come back and just say, okay, come back. But if there's still going to be social distance requirements, then we got to figure out how to do it. If you know, if it's 35% right now and it ends up being 5% in January, then we're going to have to change our program. So we
Then you
need
could
time.
also have the ones that were in school this, and then opt out
Okay,
in January.
let me get to those, because they don't have to commit till December. And that was also a common question for the panel tomorrow. If I choose in person, I'm a parent, and on October 1st I say, this isn't working for me. My kid's afraid, you know, the mask's a problem, whatever it is. If you choose in person, you can always choose remote. But then once you choose remote, it's through Christmas break. Right? So I'll make that clear with parents tomorrow.
We're gonna make that a real good goal.
Yeah.
That is gonna be,
That's important.
yeah, that's important.
And I should say,
That's big.
I said before, we got a couple hundred questions already. We have a COVID-19 at troycsd.org email dedicated to just this stuff. So we're going to answer them in the panel discussion as many as we can get to tomorrow night at 6. But we also are committed, and I'll say this tomorrow night, we will also answer in email, in writing, every single one, even the ones that we addressed, right? So, you know, the first one today was, I think, that question. If I choose to send my kid and next week I'm scared, can I send him? So I will answer that person or
Gotcha,
someone.
good.
we'll split it up.
So that's gonna put parents' minds at ease.
Yeah, and we're trying to be transparent, we're trying to be accessible and keep that communication open. So, only a couple more slides here. So school activities, which is another big question. So extracurricular activities, you know, clubs. Well, let me just jump to sports because that's probably the one that's first.
Well, no, I mean, it's these clubs, there's not gonna be any after-school stuff, so I don't see
Yeah.
how there's gonna be any clubs there.
Right. Well,
It's all after-school stuff, so I don't see how we could even have clubs.
Entertainment.
well, so when I talk to, let's stick with activities. I'm sorry. So extracurricular activities, we're talking about Key Club, Spanish Club, you know, things like that. We are going to let the advisors, and you can see there's the second bullet. If the advisors want to do it virtually, because kids do need well-rounded experiences, right? Kids need to be involved with other kids and with their teachers and their resumes. Yeah, you're right, Ann.
Yeah.
So, and again, we're not going to just do it for everybody. But if the advisors, and I've already had one email me and said they're already doing fundraisers and they want to do it virtually, if they write their plan up that says, yes, I want to do it, and here's what I plan on doing, the thing that will have to happen is the kids have to get home from school. So the virtual club meetings probably have to be in the evening. But if the advisors are willing to do that, I think it's good for kids, we'll allow them to do that. We have not, I mean, the board has not approved any class advisors or club advisors yet this year because we have to wait and see which ones really want to do it. But I think it's important for kids to have those experiences. We can certainly discuss that. So that's those. The sports, we just really have no choice but to follow New York State Public High School Athletic Association. They came out with a press release about 2 weeks ago that bumped everything to September 21st at the earliest. So typically next week would be the start of football and soccer and cross country and golf and all the fall sports. They will not be starting next week. So September 21st is that date. The interesting thing about that memo that the New York State Public High School Athletic Association put out is, in the memo, they said the 21st, but then they almost immediately followed up with, if things don't improve, we'll wait till January 2nd. And their plan at that point is, from January to June, put all 3 seasons in.
Whoa.
I did hear that.
So from January to maybe March would be the fall sports. Again, I don't know, but that would be in the middle of winter, so they might be moving them around. But from January to March would be a season of sports. I guess that would be the winter sports because it's in the middle of winter. But then from March to May 1st or early, maybe mid-April is fall sports, and then the spring sports are the next 10 weeks. So they're only 10-week seasons to get them all in that shortened period. My gut feeling, I have no inside information, but when they sent out the memo that said September 21st the earliest, if that doesn't work, here's what we're thinking. My guess is, why would they even tell the people that other plan if they weren't really planning on using that?
Well, the colleges,
And the colleges, most of the college leagues are
Winter
already
sports are
doing
done.
that.
Yeah.
fall and winter are done.
So my guess is that's what we're going to be looking at. But either way, Troy can't make a decision on sports. That decision will come from the New York State Athletic Association.
You better make that a real strong bullet.
Yeah. And then the after-school program is the other one that I really feel bad about, because I know the Empire program at the elementary level has been great for parents and good for kids. We have up to 200 kids at some of our schools staying till 5:30, getting dinner, getting snack after school. We just can't have it. With the cleaning, going back to the very first slide, I think it was, the second slide, with the cleaning and disinfecting that we have to do, and to do it properly every day, we just have to empty the buildings at the end of the instructional day. So I know that's not great for parents. We are working on trying to use the NEF Center and maybe talking to some of our partners that we work with and opening something up for, I don't know, we've tried to figure out by walking through the NEF, maybe 50 kids could be at the NEF Center and do it with proper social distancing. So talking to some of our partners that we deal with, if they want to run a program there, we would let them use that building which would help some parents. I mean, again, it's not going to be to the level that the after-school program that they come to know is. The 21st Century program, right now, there's a summer 21st Century always, and that's being done virtually right now. And the feedback we're getting is pretty positive. So we are talking to, now remember, these things are all grant funded. The Empire program is grant funded, and the 21st Century, different funding, but grant funded. So we have to get permission to not get the money this year and postpone it until next year, or maybe postpone it until January to see if things change. But for the 21st Century, we're going to ask for permission to try to do that virtually, because it is kind of working in the summer. So there will be some, but again, no, that doesn't help the parents who are using it to help with childcare, but it does help kids who, you know, need some outside of school activities to do after school. So that's that. Visitors I already talked about, so no outside visitors except to ensure safety and well-being of students. All visitors will be required to wear face coverings and will follow the established visitors procedures. And they all will need to complete the required health screening and again be screened for their temperature and all of that. It's going to be a very different start to the school year for sure. It will take some getting used to for everybody, students, staff, families. But we are committed to doing whatever it takes to make sure we have a great year. The collaboration has been great so far, and so hopefully that continues, and we really are committed to doing that, to making decisions in the best interest of kids, and to making sure we have a great year because our students and our staff need it and deserve it. No more important time than have this motto. The we's are the key here. We can, we will. Everybody's got to be part of that we. The board and administration and the faculty and staff and students and the families and the community partners. Everybody's got to be included in that we to make this work.
This is crazy.
I appreciate the time, I appreciate the questions, and certainly, Stephanie, you mentioned you have some you want to email. Certainly email me any. If you email me them tomorrow, I can have the answers for the Friday report. And again, tomorrow we're going to have 2 meetings with the employees. I'm not going to go through the PowerPoint necessarily. I'll tell them it's available, but I really want to focus. We're going to give them an hour, a little over an hour each. I want to be able to focus on their questions. Although a lot of them are answered in that presentation, I want to be able to really focus on those questions. That'll be mostly. That'll be on the website. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Does anybody have anything else for Mr. Carmelo before we move on? Make sure everybody gets a chance. No? Yes?
No.
John, you know what, John, one quick thing, it just clicked to me because I had this conversation with a friend who was out of work for like 2 months on a technicality. He never tested positive for COVID, but one of the screening questions is shortness of breath, and he's asthmatic, so he's always short of breath. But there's like, on the questionnaire his employer had, there was like no place to clarify, so he had to go through going to his doctor, getting a note saying it wasn't COVID related. They rejected the note. He had to go to a specialist. This went on for like a month and a half, 2 months before he was finally able to get back to work. So I just want to make sure we don't have any like loopholes like that.
Yeah, it's a great question, man. I'm glad you asked it, and I'll let Anthony answer after me if I say something wrong. But my understanding, and we'll make it clear though, now that you're saying that, I got to make sure I make this clear, is when you're answering those questions, it's supposed to be out of the ordinary, right? So if you have a cough always, you're not supposed to answer yes to the cough. It's supposed to be a cough that's more pronounced than you usually have. And shortness of breath would be the same thing in my opinion. And the other things that are there. Even the fever, Matt, there are some people whose normal fever is higher than 98.6. I don't know if anybody's normal fever is over the 100, but there are people, temperature. But there are people that have normal symptoms. So when you answer those questions, and I'm really glad you said it because we'll make it clear as people are answering them, you're supposed to be answering something that's out of the ordinary. Am I correct about that? Ed?
Correct, so the big example is seasonal allergies, so if someone comes in and it's a high pollen day, you're gonna be sneezing, that doesn't mean you have COVID, especially if you've been sneezing every single day. Or maybe early in the morning you were eating your cereal, you choked on something, and because of that you coughed, that doesn't mean you have to answer, yes, I just coughed, or I had a COVID symptom. Those aren't really symptoms of COVID-19.
But thank you, we'll make it clear as we put our directions and our guidance out. Appreciate that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's go to superintendent recommendations, human resources, staff matters, unclassified items, motion for consent agenda items 1 through 12.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Classified items, motion for consent agenda items 1 through 4.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent recommendations programs, on page 3, they're misnumbered. Mr. Carmelo. So we have to change.
Hold on, I gotta say sorry to Teresa. Tom told me that at agenda review, and you asked me were there any changes, and I said no, so that one's 100% on me,
Just
sorry.
goes to show you.
For the
that-
record.
Mrs. Rounds, Mr. Mayo, that's on me. You told me that on Friday, and I did not fix it. Sorry about that.
So page 3, I have to be renumbered 4, 5, 6, 7.
See what happened there, Ed?
Right, now you can either make it 1A, 2A, 3A, and then maybe just do 2 through the remainder, so they're offset.
Okay.
And remember, I believe Stephanie wanted to pull one out, so while you're amending the agenda, you can pull that out as well.
That's under business.
That's not in the cover.
Okay.
All right, so-
So 1A, 2A, 3A?
Right, and then you can just start wrong number on 2. 2 through 1.
Okay, so we'll do motion to change the numbering on page 2 to 1A, 2A, and 3A.
Second.
All right, so now I'll do
But you just have to,
a
you
motion.
have to vote on that.
You have to vote on it.
Okay, so I did the motion for 1A, 2A, and 3A.
I second it.
All those in favor for that?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so now I'll do a consent agenda items 1A, 2A, and 3A.
And the following.
That's fine, you can
And
All
have
right,
it.
well, I'll do it that way.
Okay.
A second.
Okay.
You're gonna do it too?
Yeah, I'm just gonna do 1A.
Okay, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we'll do motion for consent agenda items 2 through 18.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent recommendation, business finance. We motion to pull number 3.
Second.
All in favor of pulling number 3?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll do a motion, superintendent recommendations, business finance. Motion for consent for 1, 2, and 4.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Board resolution, settlement agreement as listed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Future meetings are tomorrow night, there is that 6 o'clock. Is it a go-to meeting, John?
6 o'clock panel discussion, we are going to be here, the panel's going to be here. How do we have that set up, Teresa? There's tables like spread out, right?
Tables will be kind of set like this for who's
I
here.
mean, I don't know if board members are interested, you can tell me, but we'll also have the link we can share with the board that if you want to listen in.
I'd like to listen in
Yeah.
from home.
We'll send you all the link.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's not going to be interactive, that's why we got the questions tonight or up till, and we've been getting them all along. So we will be viewed almost like the community watches the board meeting, right? It'll be, so you'll be able to do that. Huh?
Live stream.
Live stream.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So they'll be able to hear you, but they can't talk to you.
Correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, future meetings, our next meeting will be August 19th here at Troy Middle School at 6 p.m. September 2nd at 6 p.m. and then again September 16th at 6 p.m. and they will be here at the middle school.
Are we gonna?
Do we want to continue to?
Oh, goodness, okay, I know what you're gonna say, good.
Actually, I'm thinking, and everyone's opinion obviously, to have our board meetings just scheduled here at the middle school through the end of the year. I don't think, I mean, we normally travel to different buildings. I think
It's probably a good
in
idea.
the current situation, we might as well just, I'm thinking we just stay here through the end of the year, and then we'll talk about the principal's presentations in January and go from there.
Okay. that's
I think that they're gonna have a lot of other things,
Yeah.
extra things to worry about the principals this year than to do a presentation for us, even though they are very good.
Yep.
We can talk about it again in December or January.
I agree, that's a good
Good
idea.
idea, yeah, because,
Yeah.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
I forgot to say, I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I guess I should write it in my slides so I don't forget tomorrow, but one of the things we also are thinking about, and I wanted to give the board's reaction to it, is we have 4 PD days during the year. Right now, our calendar, and I was going to say it when I put the sample calendar up, and I just forgot. Right now, our calendar says that I think we're doing the Wednesday before Labor Day for staff only, and then we do it Tuesday after Labor Day, staff only, and then we have kids come on Wednesday. Some years we do Tuesday and Wednesday, and kids come on Thursday. And then you have an October development day for training and different things for teachers, staff day, and then we have another one in March. One of the things we're considering is moving the 4 PD days to Tuesday through Friday after Labor Day. Use them all up that first week. We wouldn't have one in October, we wouldn't have one in March, but it would give us and the staff a chance to get in the building for those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We do some of our initial, this shortened versions of the back-to-school speeches and things, probably have to do those virtually because we can't all crowd in the auditorium, but also get the staff familiar with what the world's going to look like. And the students wouldn't start till Monday, I believe it's the 14th.
Yeah, but
It doesn't affect our 180 days with the state because those count. The only thing that really changes is for family, students come on the 14th, but I think they might appreciate that we're getting ready those 4 days. And then on those October and March days, we probably, we wouldn't be able to have them unless the 180-day thing got waived or something.
I like that idea. I'd rather you guys get as prepared as you can.
yeah, and I think the teachers are gonna need to, because their rooms are gonna be set up totally
I was just
different.
gonna ask
Teachers
that.
like it.
So it would
I'm
be
run it
that-
by a few of the teachers.
It would be that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or
We
Tuesday?
could just
Be
start fresh
Tuesday,
on Monday.
Tuesday to Friday. There'll be no kids.
That's
We
a
have Labor Day on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, before professional development staff days. They have to do their mandated trainings, right to know, sexual harassment, and now new COVID training, so they can get all that stuff done. They can make sure their rooms are right, they can make sure they're up to date with their technologies, want some technology training for them. We'll get ready for, it'll give us 4 days instead of 2 days to get ready for this new year that we got in front of us.
I have a question. You know how they come
Yeah.
in like the week before to always get their classrooms ready? You're saying most of their stuff is going. Where's it going?
Great question.
Like their bookcases,
Bob
their
Gardner's
books, their,
house.
you know, all that stuff.
Yeah, Bob's got room, he's able to park there. Ms.
Yeah.
Rounds is not going to like the answer, but we're talking about trailers.
Ah,
We're talking about off-site maybe,
It's
storage
about-
facilities.
but wait,
Pretty
wait,
cool.
It
wait,
depends,
wait.
not
it
like
depends on the
us.
stuff. We also are going to ask people to throw away stuff that's old and we don't need anymore.
Yeah.
But, the things that,
I can
hopefully
think
when we get
quite
back
a
to
few
normal at
questions.
some point, we're going to want to put those things back. So we're going to have to make sure we take great inventory of them, and probably trailers or storage facilities.
Well, That, I mean, everybody knows, oh, those that were through all of this knows how much I hated the trailers and how bad all of our schools look. But we do have that extra room now, down at the Neff. We do have that whole baseball field and that whole back row that we could actually put trailers back there because it's a non-used part of our school district now.
It's a good idea.
And it belongs to us.
If we're gonna use the after-school program, then we just have to be careful.
But
We're leaving room for
We,
kids.
so,
to-
right, no, this is outside, the trailers are outside, so, but also, with that being said too, we also have a capital
And a crossing.
project going on, so the kids are only gonna be a part of that building. Because we're still, Neff Center's the first thing that gets done.
Yeah.
And we gotta stop calling it the Neff Center.
Yeah. What do you want to call it?
Community.
Troy Community School.
Troy, TCS.
I like TCS, that's it.
But
That's right, Troy Community School.
Yeah.
But I think too, that whole, when you go behind the field at TCS, that road, there's a road that goes around the back of that
There is.
field.
And actually, the parking lot across the street is ours too.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Put 'em there.
And
And
it's
that parking lot?
That's actually.
right, that's ours, and it's
Yeah.
fenced.
Now, isn't that where, you're talking about where Big Town used to be?
Where Kick Down used to be, that's
And
down,
the parking lot's right
Yeah.
behind the
I love
books.
when they come up with the old choice.
yeah.
I love
Sorry,
that. I love that.
Actually, not a bad spot.
I love that.
No, that's fenced in.
And with the lack of athletics, we're gonna have a lot
And that's out
of
of the way.
But it is
Use that
fenced
parking
in,
lot.
you're right.
Use that parking lot for trailers.
It's fenced,
Right,
it's
it's
fenced in.
or it's got, you know, I
Glad we
think,
talked about it.
yeah,
Well done.
just need to put a camera there.
Thank you for, I forgot to say that.
Already done.
Okay.
Already a camera there.
Motion to adjourn? I'm sorry, does anybody have anything else?
Like Steffi does.
I have a question. It just gets me thinking because here, you know, when we're the remote people and we're watching the meeting, it's a whole different way of learning and trying to pay attention to what's being said. And we're really working, I know, to make sure that the kids with their Chromebooks are engaged and make it as real as possible. So before we worry about where we're storing stuff, how is that stuff that's going to be stored, how does that tie into the future of that education? Which I'm sure that Dr. Watson has that all wrapped up in her mind already.
Yeah,
But I
so,
just feel like there's a disconnect between storing stuff that hasn't been used in years anyway,
yeah,
while we're trying to teach kids to be virtually
yeah,
as minimalist as possible.
yeah. So I don't think they're totally separate. It's the storing stuff is, I mean, we're trying not to store, go back to your last thing you just said, we're trying not to store stuff that hasn't been used in years. We're gonna ask those teachers, you throw the stuff, well, we'll throw it out for you, or take it home. But the stuff that they're using that we have to clear the rooms, not because they haven't been using this stuff, because we have to be able to move the desks further away, where right now shelves are in the way or other things are in the way. So,
It just didn't sound like it made sense to me, but if you have that under control and you know that it's useful stuff.
Well, it
then it's
has to be
fine.
done
I
for
just
this-
thought- I
it has
can't
to be
get that
done-
image of the pool at school 14 out of my mind.
yeah, no. Yeah, you have to,
Right.
I hear you. You have to get that out of your mind. It's not gonna be like that, and it's not gonna be like the old trailers, where at that point, you know, we just threw the stuff in, and the stuff was good, and then it ended up being trash 6 months later, because we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do it the right way. We'll have inventory. We'll know which trailer has which stuff. So this is all stuff that's needed for normal, everyday instruction, but not in our COVID world. We have to clear the rooms out. So it won't affect the interaction like you're talking about, the kids at home on their Chromebooks, but it is gonna be needed to put back once we are allowed to put it back. So we'll keep, Bob will promise you right now, I'm promising for him, but Bob will promise you right now, if you say, hey, where's that Carroll Hill bookcase that Mrs. McClement has, he'll tell you it's in trailer 4.
Sure. We had a practice run last summer.
He might have to look it up, but he'll know. And it won't look like the
Stephanie,
pool.
I just wanted to say quickly that I don't think it's a decision of what hasn't been used in years, but rather what is being used versus what is absolutely essential. So we talked
Right.
about the classroom libraries, like would that be moved in storage or is that absolutely essential? And so I think that is the discriminating factor, not, I don't really think classrooms have things in them that haven't been used in years. But it becomes a matter of, you know, are we allowed to keep the rug in the room? Is that absolutely essential? You know, so I think that's really the question.
I knew you had that in your mind already.
Thank you very much. Great input. Great questions.
Anyone have anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Ms. Coles.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.